Okay, so now people are coming in. All right, guys. So this is a 30-minute meeting. Thank you very much for the time. Let me just wait one more moment for people to fill in. I want to be respectful of your time and make sure we get some people in, but we do have 30 minutes. So I'm just going to wait just a bit more before we get started. Okay. So as people are filling in, I'd like to make some opening remarks. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join at our San Vicente Median Green Project virtual briefing. My name is Michael Amster. I am the councilwoman's field deputy for the Brentwood neighborhood. I'm the first point of contact for any citywide city issues in Brentwood. And one of the things our office has been focusing on is the beautification and upgrading of San Vicente Boulevard. As we all know, on this meeting, there are a lot of elements where San Vicente Boulevard needs to be improved, and there are several projects that are happening on that, but we're here to speak about specifically one project and give you the update on where we stand on the median greening aspect of improving San Vicente. I'm joined here today by my colleague from City Hall, Sarah Flannery, the legislative deputy for Councilwoman Tracy Park. We also have the voice of God, William Ayala, on the call as well. In addition to that, we have Streets LA, the leaders on this project, here to present as well. We have Joel Valdez, we have Jennifer Torres, and Alex. You'll have to forgive me. I forgot
It's
her second name.
Alexander Cayoso.
I apologize for
That's
that.
okay.
Thank you for filling that in. Thank you so much for making the time to present. And now's a good time to get started. I'd like to provide some opening comments to give a little bit of a summary as to how we got here, where we are with this project before passing off to Streets LA, and also giving detailing our Q&A portion, how we're going to be handling that. So we're here to discuss the San Vicente Median Green project and where we stand on this project. And many of you may be asking, okay, how did this project come about? The answer to that simply comes from a state bill that was passed in the California legislature in the Budget Act. Within the Budget Act of 2023, there was a grant provided to the city of Los Angeles, 1.2 million to beautify the San Vicente median with upgrade irrigation and supporting biodiversity initiatives of the city. That is the grant that was provided from the state to the city, which the city of Los Angeles accepted. And here we are effectuating that grant along San Vicente. After the grant was accepted, simply put, the Streets LA team got to work on putting together what is feasible, studied the presence of rails or any potential issues that would come with beautifying certain segments of the median. No rail issues came from that, so involving the Westgate rail system that used to exist along San Vicente. There was no issues with that. And we had a community meeting on August 9th of this year to present to the community a array of options for the palette that would be used to beautify this project. Where we stand right now, after receiving that community input from August 9th and several weeks thereafter online, the palette has been chosen. We're going to go into that. And currently the project is in design development. And this presentation here serves as a, not so much as an update, but a briefing to make sure that the community is aware of where we stand on this project. from here, before I pass it off to Streets LA, I'd like to let you know that I am monitoring the Q&A chat. And in addition to that, we're going to make as much time as possible after the presentation to go through Q&A. When you enter things in the chat, I'm going to do my best to be responsive to those in the chat, but we're also going to open it up for questions for those who raise their hand. With that, let me begin in starting to share my screen. And I will now be passing it along to Streets LA as I get to pulling the slide here. Here we are.
And Michael, forgive me, is this being recorded today or no?
It is being recorded, yes.
I just want to make sure people were aware of that.
Oh, yes, we do have that going. Thank you for making that one.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Torres. I'm a supervising landscape architect in the Design Build division with Streets LA. I'm going to let the other members in my team introduce themselves, and then we can get into the updates. So I'll pass it off to Alexander.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Alexander Cayozo. I see familiar names. I don't see all the, not sure I met everybody at previous community meetings, but it's nice to meet you all. I'm Alexander Cayozo. I'm the senior landscape architect. I oversee our group of landscape architects within the design build section. Jennifer is part of my team. She's a supervisor on my team, and I'm happy to be working with her on this. I've been with the city almost 15 years. I'm an LA native and very happy to be working on this project. I'm going to pass it to Joella Valdez, who's part of our external relations team.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Joella Valdez, and I am a part of the external relations team at Streets LA. I support Jennifer and Alexander with community outreach and working alongside the council office and mayor office.
Great. Thank you for that. So Michael, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So Michael provided already a lot of background on the project and the grant and how that came to be, but just a little bit of information on the project. The San Vicente Median Greening Project is located in the Brentwood community, and it's located along San Vicente Boulevard between Montana Avenue and Darlington Avenue. So we discussed Michael discussed how the budget came from a state grant that was awarded to us. The funding for the project is for a very specific scope and requirement that has already been predetermined by the state, and that was given to us. The project scope, it's basically a revitalization project, meaning we're removing the existing high water using turf, and we're going to replace that with new drought tolerant plants. We're also going to remove the outdated irrigation system that's existing, and we're going to replace that with a high efficiency irrigation, right? The goal of the project is to create a more attractive and a more vibrant landscape that will improve the visual appeal of the corridor, while also reducing water use, right? We all know that turf is, a high water using element. We did have a previous community meeting on August 9th where we provided a presentation. We had a Q&A session. We presented some plant palette options, and we held a voting, right? We did some polling that was open to all the community members that wanted to participate. And then from there, we gathered that data. We have all this information available on the project website. So based on those polling results, we came up with a plant palette, which is the next slide, if you don't mind, Michael. So the plant palette that was chosen is identified here. We did survey for a period of approximately a month, right? We got a request to extend the original, I think 2-week period was what we had allotted, but we extended that to a month to allow more community members to participate. So what the community was voting on were different types of planting to use throughout the corridor. So we had a shrub and grasses section, a ground cover planting section, and an accent planting section. And then there's also a seed mix that was selected. Now, the plants that we have selected, right? So the entire palette that we proposed originally that we showed to the community, we did this based on like how we select trees, which is like choosing the right plant for the right location. So you'll find a mix of plants here. You'll find some California natives along with some drought tolerant landscaping plants. There is a movement, recently where people want to push for California natives, and that's a very ambitious goal. And we try to use as many California natives when we can, but being that we've done this for a while now, we've come across like some issues with some of the plants just not performing well, since this is not a native environment, right? This is an urban setting that we're introducing plants to. There's, lots of things working against the plants. So we try our best to provide a palette that we know is going to do well long term, right? While also providing, that pleasant experience for everyone, right? We are trying to create like an organic landscape here. There are existing trees along the corridor. I'm sure you're all aware. That's the coral tree. At this time, we're not going to be proposing any additional trees. There are some issues with the tree species that I need to be worked out. So for now, we're holding that off. But if there was the need for trees in the future, we can certainly accommodate that, and we're designing it, with that in mind. Let's see, can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the timeline that we presented. We're kind of on track, I think. We're in the design phase, and we're going to be in the design phase for all of the winter. Our hope is to start the bidding and award process come, spring of 2026, and then start construction in the fall of 2027. That is the goal. The schedule is subject to change if, unforeseeable circumstances were to arise. But as of now, this is the goal. We do have a project that overlaps with our project, which is the San Vicente Walkability Project, which we have been coordinating very closely with. So one of the challenges with the timeline was that we needed that project to start construction, right? Because there is going to be some adjustments made to the existing conditions. So the medians, as you know them now, are going to change a little because they're going to be adding curb ramps to the corners and also to the refuge islands. So we've been working with that team and coordinating to make sure that there is as minimal disruption to the landscape that we're proposing. So that project seems to be on time, which is a really good thing for us, because then that means that once we go in with our project, all the improvements that the walkability project is proposing have already been incorporated. Now, that's pretty much it, where we're at with the project. I do encourage everyone to visit the project website. The project website has the most up-to-date information. You can find a copy of the full presentation from that community meeting that we held on August 9th. You can also find the finalized plant palette option on there, as well as the Q&A that was held during that community presentation. And then just, to kind of like, in case somebody's not familiar with some of those questions that were asked there, we can go through some of those, and I think I've kind of answered some of those already. But like one of the questions was, when is the project going to be completed? So right now our timeline is to be completed by the end of the spring of 2027. Can we plant native oaks instead of coral trees? So the coral trees are a historic protected tree. We cannot change that tree. Um, our only options are to either not plant any additional trees at all, or if we plant a tree, it has to be a coral tree. And that's the guideline that we have to follow. So those are the only two options there. What type of irrigation was going to be used? So like I mentioned, it's a high efficiency irrigation system. It's going to reduce the water consumption in the area. We are complying also with the MWELO requirements, which is a state mandate that tells us how much water we're allowed to use in a particular site. And we're making sure that we're complying with that. The next one, to using all native plants. So as I discussed previously, we try to incorporate as many native plants as we can. However, not all of them perform well. And oftentimes we have challenges because there are certain design guidelines that we have to abide by that the city has to take into consideration when we design. So we try our best to do as many natives as we can, but ultimately we propose plants that we know are going to do well long term in the project that we're proposing them for. Let's see what else. Why is the whole corridor not being planted? So the grant that we have is very specific. The project limits, right? So the 3 medians that I described earlier from Montana to Darlington, those were already selected for us, and we cannot change those project limits. Let's see what else. Was the entire San Vicente corridor considered when designing the medians? Is this something that can be done for the rest of the medians? Yes. So the design that we have is something that can easily be incorporated into the other medians if somehow in the future there was another funding source that was identified to improve the project. We'd be happy to take that on too if that was something that an opportunity that came along in the future. So we know there's a gopher problem in the medians. Have we been coordinating with UFD? And have we considered using snakes to mitigate the problem? So we are aware of the gopher problem, and we have been coordinating with UFD. And they're the ones who oversee the maintenance there. So we're still looking to see what we can do to mitigate this. But unfortunately, we're not able to use any living animal to mitigate that problem. Why are we planting more coral trees if we know that they are not doing well? Can we plant a different type of tree? So again, like I mentioned, the option is either to not plant additional trees, and if we do plant trees, they has to be a coral tree. Those are, the only two options. And I see Juan has his hand up.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you. Yeah, and just for the community, we understand that there's a lot of conversation to be had about the species that gets planted. Um, to not sidebar this conversation too much, please follow up with Michael and I as we're working with our planning team to see if we can make some potential amendments to, again, the historical nature of the median has its restrictions. There is a process that we are exploring to see if we can have at least one species added to this historical designation. But as Jennifer has said, right now, at least where the department is in terms of the planning and what they have to follow, kind of both legally, given the historical nature, it has to incorporate the coral tree. One of the things that I think we've worked on, Jennifer and Alexander, thank you, is having things in place to kind of future proof it in case a tree does come in, whether that's a coral or after the community and our planning team have gone deeper into the discussion of potentially expanding the tree palette here, adding a tree, but the infrastructure should be in place to hopefully keep that tree to survive whatever it is, whatever species is determined at a later time. And that was just some of the conversations we had with many community members and obviously your team as to how we can work on this given the concerns we've heard. And I think that was the median we fell on right now, median pun intended, sorry, kind of where we landed in kind of the compromise between some wanting corals, others not wanting to continue that discussion, was to let the department, since they have a tighter timeline, kind of do what they need to do, remove the actual planting of a tree species right now, so that our office and the community can further discuss what the long-term palette's going to look like for the median. So hopefully that provides a little clarification on next steps when it comes to trees.
Thank you, Juan. So that kind of leads into the next question where somebody asked, where does it say that the coral trees are historic, protected, and where can they find that information? So coral trees are historic monument 148. In fact, you can find the plaque at the beginning of the corridor where it says that. And then this was designated by the Cultural Heritage Board. And if you go to the Q&A that's on the website, there is actually a link on there that can take you to that web page in case you have you want additional information on that. What is the height and width of the planting? So the plant material at maturity that we have selected is to meet the visibility requirements that this city has. So essentially, there's nothing that's over 36 inches high, which is our maximum that is allowed. Can we incorporate stormwater management swales into the medians? So the grant does not cover that currently. It's just for shrubs and irrigation. Additionally, adding any sort of stormwater management or a swale that requires a very specific type of maintenance. So if something like this were to be considered for the future, the first thing that would need to be discussed is who would be taking maintenance responsibility for that. Who's in charge of trimming the existing coral trees? That is being done by our urban forestry division. So they take care of that, and they have budget available as part of their regular program. And then there was
I apologize, Jennifer. It's all right. I see one hand that's raised. I'd like to give Emily the opportunity to ask a question. Okay. Okay, Emily, you should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Michael. So thank you everybody for making the time to talk to us. I have to respectfully say the only true consultation really has been limited to the palette. There's really been no high level, does the community want our iconic median altered? And it is really an iconic median. The continuity all the way from the commercial area down to the ocean is really part of the beauty. And walking the median is extremely popular, and this project will change the use of the median. I have to say the Santa Monica stretch of the median is by far, maintained much better than the Los Angeles part of it. And I can't help but think part of the reason that people believe that this median needs some revitalization is that it has not been maintained. I mean, it's been really in disarray. And the moment as you go down San Vicente, heading towards the ocean, suddenly the median looks a lot better in Santa Monica. And so I really think that if there is money that the city has to maintain this project, there seems to be a pocket of money somewhere that's not grant money, then why can't we just simply use that pocket of money to maintain what we have? Just mow the grass, water and mow the grass, and maintain the status quo. And I would honestly say take this project and redirect it to that stretch along the what people are calling the prison fence along Brentwood Country Club, where it's become now an eyesore. Because really, a little water, a little maintenance, our median can be and has been beautiful. And I think that I'm concerned that also this really won't be maintained, and that there are going to be a lot of new plants put in. People are going to trample across them, cutting across the median. And I just I would take
Emily,
this
I
back
apologize,
a
but
bit. Okay.
I
Yes,
apologize.
go ahead.
But thank you. There's a lot that you brought up. Thank you for that. I would just say as an initial point, your council office is very well aware of what's happened with the country club. That is, of course, well outside the scope of between Darlington and Montana. We do have a project here that is supported by a grant to further the city's biodiversity initiative. I'll pass it to Streets LA to address anything further that Emily touched upon.
Okay, hi Emily. Nice to meet you. Um, so I guess a couple things.
We met at St. Martin of Tours.
Okay, and
Nice to see you
I
again.
recognized your voice.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought I recognized your voice. Okay, so the one is existing turf and keeping existing turf. Right now, the city's goal is if we have any existing medians that have existing turf, as much even if they are green and if they appear lush, they are high water using. They are very high water using. So the plants that we are putting in are all considered low water use, and we've found that we're saving about 40 to 50% of water when we are putting in these plants. The city is paying for the water for these medians. So this isn't just like, it's a kind of the big impetus of this is water savings. We are going throughout the city right now on existing turf medians, even if they're green or not, removing old turf, removing antiquated irrigation systems, and replacing it with low water systems, low water shrubs, and also the big plus is shrubs that are beneficial to pollinators and birds and things like that. One of the questions that came up in the chat that I was answering was, are some of the plants providing benefits for birds and bees and things like that? And yes, they are. A lot of flowering plants that we're adding. So that's kind of the one answer. The other, you were mentioning about people using the median as a walking space. So unfortunately, right now, this is not a park. This is a public right-of-way median, and really is not legally intended for people to walk out there. It's technically not safe for people to use as a walking space. It's not handicap accessible. It's not a walking path. So and it's not a park. It is a public right of way intended for a visual median space. I know we can't stop people from going out there, right? And people still may cut across even when we plant it with new plants. We can't stop that. We're not going to be putting fences up in this median. We have considered that in our selection of plants, knowing that, hey, people are probably still going to cut across. So we've really thought about plants that if they do get stepped on, they're going to pop back up. That's why we have a lot of the grasses in that palette. We don't have a lot of really woody shrubs that if you step on a woody shrub, it cracks and it breaks. We have ground covers that if they do get stepped on, they'll replenish themselves. So we did put thought into that, knowing that we can't stop people from going out there. It's going to change the habits a little bit of people, the way they use it. So we thought about that. Did I address everything, Jennifer?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think the other thing is just like the grant, right? Limit what we can do with the money anyway. So the project scope and the type of improvements were already set for us. So we can't change that without losing the funds.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
And Alexander and Jennifer, if I may add, because we have heard some of these as well, Emily, what we as an office have said that kind of as an additional phase to this overall median, because we do know that people actively use this non-active median, as Alexander kind of just explained, that people technically shouldn't be walking on it. That our office is happy to explore other portions of the median to see what we can do to kind of make it a more active median that is safely passable on that end. Just given the grant restrictions and the monies that came in and the way Alexander's team and Jennifer have to kind of use it. Those are some of the limitations that we have there, but our office is committed to working with everyone on other stretches of the median to see what we can do to make it a more active one for people to safely access it. Obviously, there's costs and all these other things that would come into play, but just wanted to put it out there that we have discussed this with some of the community members as to other options on activating portions of the median so that it is safer and more accessible for people to cross, as we know people use this as an active median.
Okay, thank you. So we are at 7 o'clock. I would say, is it all right to just take one last question by chance?
I think we could take I think I'd like to take the two at least. There's because I see two
Okay.
hands raised. So I want to be fair to the folks here.
Beautiful. Okay, so two last questions. We'll start with Miss Garland. Miss Garland, you are now able to talk. Are you still there, Miss Garland? Okay, looks like she's left the meeting altogether. So with that, the last hand that's raised is Tanya Greenberg.
Hi there, Michael. Good evening. Thanks to everyone from Street Survey. A couple of questions to kind of build on what Emily was mentioning. My first point is, would it not be better to just start back at the basics? Two key issues that we have on the median to begin with are irrigation and gophers. So why wouldn't we start to see if we can at least get these trees to start thriving again? See what species we need to bring in. There are hundreds of species of coral tree. Clearly, we are locating the wrong kind, even comparing and contrasting what they're putting on the Santa Monica portion. My concern with the gophers is I am not a gopher expert. I know nothing about gophers, but as much as they burrow and dig holes, they must be eating something. So if they're going after bark, if they're going after plants and tubes and different types of plants, I just want to make sure we're not now creating an environment that is ripe for them to thrive. And then just other things, I just wanted to make sure that there's been some sort of studies on compatibility of species of plants and flowers. Just, I definitely have concerns that we're putting a lot there without knowing how it's going to perform. We don't know how it's going to be maintained. I'd like to say I have faith in the city to maintain, but you get a pothole and we have to drive poor Michael crazy to get it fixed. So you want to tell me that you're not going to have a stretch of San Vicente Boulevard with unknown and so many different types of shrubs, and now the city year on year is going to be able to maintain it. Now you have a period of rain like we had over the last few days, and let's just say we have incredible amounts of water that do land on these species that don't need irrigation. Now how are they going to perform? I think there's so many unknowns. It would be really great to just go back to the beginning, fix the gopher problem. We can't seem to get over this issue in Brentwood. Deal with the trees, find the right species, get it to thrive before we start throwing a million different other variables at this project.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much. And for
Tanya, before Alexander, you respond on the species and stuff. I think, Tanya, as I mentioned earlier, we are actively looking at the tree species palette with our planning director. And again, please join us in that communication in terms of what that looks like. And that's part of kind of some of the conversation that we had with Alexander and the team as to make sure we don't include trees in terms of actually getting them planted, but leaving space in case we do. So please work with Michael and I to have that discussion on the species of the trees that could potentially come here. But as I mentioned earlier, the historical nature and the designation really does have strict limitations for the department that we're trying to figure out what we can do here. Happy to have Michael give you an update on what that conversation was like when we had it a couple weeks ago. Well, probably now it's like 2 months ago now, which we'll probably do for a follow-up with our team. And then I think, Alexander, I'll let you touch more on the survival of the species that you guys are using to plant.
Yeah, so we've actually been talking with and I know a lot of you know Hector Benuelos, so they're in Forestry. We're working with him on vetting the palette, talking to him about the issues with the gophers. We're not ignoring it. We are also looking at the type of irrigation that we put in. Normally, we would be putting in drip irrigation in medians. However, we know that the drip irrigation will get chewed through by rats, gophers, things like that. So we are putting in a whole brand new irrigation system. It's a whole brand new irrigation system that's a low precipitation spray head. It's going to be on a solar controlled irrigation controller. So we're putting a lot of thought into kind of future proofing the medians regarding those issues. I know there's one last question, and then we're going to have to end the evening here.
Yes, let me go get that. Okay. All right. Yes, should be ready to speak.
That's for Miss Garland, right?
That's right, yes. Okay. Are you able to unmute yourself? Let's see. Yes. Okay, Ms. Garland, one more chance. Let's see here. Okay. Just try one more time. Pressing the ask to unmute function. If Ms. Garland is you're not able to unmute, I guess this is a good moment to share that we're still here to be responsive to you all. If you have any further questions on the project that you have not had answered here tonight, please reach out to me at michael.amster@lacity.org, and I'll get you an answer as promptly as I can on the project. And moving forward, once we get past design development, we'll have more updates on where this project stands. Thank you so much for your willingness to participate tonight in this meeting. This recording of the meeting will be posted shortly on the Councilwoman's YouTube page for you and your neighbors' reference. And once again, thank you so much for your time.